Afternoon rolls on, one stunning talk after another. It's just an opportunity for me to bring all the people that I love and I'm inspired by together in one place, really. So we have yet another woman who I am inspired by and very, very fond of, who has been a great inspiration to me. Julie Harrison, who has had some very traumatic events in her life, a skydiving accident, and then coming down with diagnosed with breast cancer 9 years ago, and she's responded incredibly positively to these very challenging life events, and she's here this afternoon to tell of her experience. So I'd like to invite you to put your hands together and give a warm welcome this afternoon to Julie Harrison. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much. I've got a company called Yes to Change, and what I'd like to do today is explain what I do, why I do it, and then we're going to have a short little quiz, and then at the end I'm going to finish off with some really, really simple things everybody can do to improve their health that don't cost huge amounts of money, don't take a lot of effort, and just basically you just need to think a little bit. So I'm a natural health coach. I also run real health workshops, and I'm in the process of writing a book called Yes to Change. For the natural health coach, I do recipe conversions, raw and cooked food lessons, juicing and smoothie lessons, education and advice, and ways to save money, together with mentoring and support. It's either a one-off, monthly, or as required, at your home or by Skype. The workshops are at various locations, day courses and weekend retreats. And again, it's raw food, juicing and smoothie demonstrations, yoga and Pilates sessions, meditation, education, simple ways you can improve your health, because some things do seem a little bit complicated, so I try and simplify it for you. And tips on how to save money with your new regime, because it can get very expensive, as I found out. And my book, 7 simple steps to improve your life after a cancer diagnosis. Optimise your vitamin D levels, drink alkalised water, what to put on your body, electromagnetic fields, the nutritional value of your foods, stress management, and exercise, including yoga, high intensity and strength training. That's going to be finished hopefully by the end of May. My approach is the power of the mind, which you'll see in a moment, to me is very, very important. The body, it's not just what you put in it, it's what you put on it and what you do with it as well. And your spirit, which is often the missing link, and that for me is what's dramatically changed my life. It all started back in 2009. Just be very careful what you wish for. Because I was stood on the flight line and I was thinking to myself, I'd love to have a break from looking after my children. They were 5 and 7 at the time. Wanted some time off work, worrying about money, all the mundane things in life. And half an hour later, I got my wish. Another parachutist came from behind and our parachutes entwined. We fell sort of 300 feet. And I spent 2 weeks in hospital waiting for surgery. They couldn't find a surgeon to operate on me. So I had a bolt through my knee with a weight holding it down to stop me from healing. And they said I'd probably never walk again. And if I did walk, I would need crutches or walking sticks. And I thought, no, I'm not having that. I want to go skydiving again. So I set my mind to it. And 6 months later, I was back on the drop zone and I was skydiving again. Obviously, I did have walking sticks and I couldn't walk without them. My poor children had to run up to me on the drop zone when I landed so I could actually get back and pack my parachute again. So for me, that showed the power of the mind. That's the award, very similar to the one I was in. So that's the power of the mind. And then I decided that I didn't want walking sticks anymore. I wanted to move on. So I took up Pilates. And as you can see now, I can walk absolutely fine. Then the next step happened, the power of nutrition. I've got every woman's worst nightmare. I got breast cancer. I was living a fairly healthy life according to government guidelines, which I'm sure you all appreciate are bollocks. They don't apply. Back then I was very naive and I acted in a place of fear. I had the surgery. But luckily I started investigating and deciding that things weren't how I wanted to progress. I was actually outraged at what was being hidden from us. So I said no to chemotherapy. I said no to radiotherapy. I said no to all the toxic drugs. And I just changed my diet and lifestyle. Now, in hindsight, I would have found a mentor, somebody to help me, but I did it by myself, just lots of investigation. And often people say to me, how do you know what you did worked? Well, I was very fortunate because I started having thermograms. I don't know, have any of you heard of thermograms? It's where you get a picture of your breast, and you'll see in the next pictures the difference. The first one here, I don't know if you can see the colours. Any areas that are yellow or red, orange, that's where there's heat. And any areas where it's blue, that means it's cool. So you can see the first one here, I don't know if you can all see it, but that was the picture that was taken in February 2010. And I first had the operation in September 2009. So it's not brilliant, but you can see it's not really red and inflamed, and looks like there's no cancer there. I went back again in May 2010, and you can see the breast area's got more blue in. And then a year later, much more blue, much bluer. So for me, in my own mind, I've got no doubt that what I'm doing is working. I even took them to my oncologist, and I said, I don't want to see you anymore, I don't like you. And he said, well, if you keep having those done, he said, what you're doing is fine, keep up the good work. So I found out so many things, I just thought I've got to help other people. So I started off and I created my own website called Yes to Change. And it was just telling my story, hopefully giving information to people and getting them to question things. Because we're told that we have to do things a certain way, and people tend to follow the advice, especially of medical professionals. So I started helping others who had gone through the same thing as me. I started to study natural nutrition with Barbara Wren. I spent hours and hours and hours of research, became a volunteer for Cancer Active on their forum, but I wanted to do more. So this is where the spirit came in, is why we are here and what is our purpose. I'd always pushed it to one side, but in the last, 8 months or so, I've really started questioning things, and all of a sudden everything came together. You've got to learn to trust and let go of the outcome. I was always very impatient before, and if I decided I wanted to do something, there'd be a little voice in the back of my head saying, do it, take some action. But it's since I've let go of that and let things happen to me, that the world's just changed dramatically. The techniques that have helped me are meditation, grounding. Don't know if any of you have heard of Philip Day. He's written a marvellous book called Origins, and Proof of Heaven. But the most inspiring thing was actually watching an animation of life in a cell. All what can go on in a single cell, and we've got trillions of them in our body, is just, there's more at work than we think, and it changed who I am. So what I'd like to do is a little quiz. There's only 4 questions, and it's A, B, C, or D. So if you've got a pen and paper and you can write down where you come into it. Hopefully it'll just make you question a few things. So my first big thing is vitamin D. So just, some of it might sound gobbledygooch. If that's the case, then just select the next one that is closest to you. So either on A, I either get 20 minutes of noonday sunshine whilst my shadow is shorter than me, or I take D3 5,000 IU supplements and I don't use soap afterwards for 48 hours. I never burn, and I have my 25 hydroxy levels tested twice a year. And the levels are between 125 and 200 nanomoles per litre. B, I take D3 5,000 IU supplements daily. What is vitamin D? I've never heard of any D3 supplements or a sunbathe. And D, I sunbathe before 11 a.m. and after 3 p.m. and sometimes use sunscreens. Anybody fit into A? Ish. Yeah? Okay. Anybody B? Not many. C. And D. So there's obviously quite a few of you that don't fit into any of those categories. Is that right? Is that because you're between categories? Yeah. Or okay.
Like I've heard of D3, but I don't take it daily.
Right. Okay. Well, if you can just pick the one that's closest to you. 90% of the knowledge that we've got about vitamin D has been discovered in the last 10 years, so it's all very new. My doctor, I tried to persuade him to let me have tests done on the National Health Service, and in the end he finally agreed. And he phoned me up and he said, "Do you know what? You might be onto something here with vitamin D." GPs haven't got time to investigate. They're constantly seeing patients. There's a whole load of drug information they have to take on board. So it's very, very new. It's more than a vitamin. It's a steroid hormone. And it influences 10% of your genes. Just one example of an important gene that vitamin D upregulates is your ability to fight infections and chronic inflammation. So anybody with a serious illness, you can see how important it is. And it also produces over 200 antimicrobial peptides. Studies have shown that optimum levels can reduce your overall risk of dying by 50%. Now, it's oil soluble, so if you sunbathe and then you go and have a shower afterwards with soap, you're going to wash all of the vitamin D down the plug hole. I'm obviously not saying don't shower after you sunbathe because we'd all go around smelling a little bit, but you can use water and just use soap in your private areas. And Birmingham City Assay Department, it's an NHS lab, they actually do private testing kits. It's only £25, and it was something that I would urge you to do. These are the different levels. If you're deficient, it's anything below 125. Optimum for people in general health is between 125 and 175. If you're treating cancer, it's recommended your levels are between 175 nanomoles per litre and 200 nanomoles per litre. And anything over that is they count as excessive. Now, these levels are very different to the NHS guidelines. They say anything over 50 is adequate, which, as you can see, it's clearly not.
So do you know where these levels come from?
No, they're not. It's general consent. There's a very good website called vitamindcouncil.org, and it's run by doctors. If anybody's heard of Dr. Marcola, he's got an amazing 1-hour lecture. It's a free lecture on his website, which goes into far, far more detail than I've gone into now. But if you're going to do one thing to improve your health without any effort, with hardly any money, it's your vitamin D. To get it tested twice a year, you're talking about £50. A year's supply of supplements is going to cost you about £15. So it's the most simple, easy thing anybody can do.
How can you test it again?
It's a little pinprick test. You do it yourself. You send away for the little kit.
So that last slide.
Birmingham City Assay Department, yeah. I've got the details if you want them. It's £25. And you get the results usually back within about 4 or 5 days. So if you can all remember which you answered for that first one, and then we'll go on to the next one. The nutritional value of your food. A, I eat at least 10 portions of organic vegetables and 2 to 3 portions of fruit every day. I take a whole food or food state multivitamin mineral supplement with Q10 and supplement with extra omega-3s. I've addressed any food intolerances and non-food intolerances I had. I eat at least 5 or more portions of real fruit and vegetables a day. Or C, I drink fruit juice and my frozen pizza has vegetables on it, and the baked beans on toast I had for lunch means I had 4 portions today. Is anybody on A? B? I take it there's nobody as a C.
I'm almost at the moment. I'm not ashamed to admit. No.
Okay, again, if you can just remember which one you did for that one. Some of the ideas that I'm saying to you today are a little bit controversial. It's what I found out from my experience, and it's definitely saved my life. And hopefully, I'm not saying believe what I'm telling you. I'm asking you to start questioning things and do your own research, because that's the most important thing anybody can come away with. The vitamin and mineral content of our food is severely depleted, even organic farming. Intensive farming just puts about 3 nutrients, minerals into the soil: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And the human body's got 84. So if we're constantly just pumping those 3 nutrients into the soil to make the crops grow and look beautiful, but not provide us with anything, you can see how we're going to have a shortage. And years ago, 200-300 years ago, an average person was eating about 4,000 calories. Now we're on, I don't know, say 2,000. So just the pure quantity of the food we're eating means that we can't be meeting the nutritional needs of our body. So I believe you need to supplement, but you need to supplement with whole food or food state vitamins and minerals so your body recognises them as food and they don't just get washed out. So this is another big one, sugar. A, I never consume any processed sugar and limit my fructose to 20 grams a day. B, sugar isn't bad for you. You need it for energy, although it can rot your teeth and make you fat. Therefore, I try not to eat too much of it, and I will eat cakes and fruit juices. Or C, I eat sweetened breakfast cereal with a glass of orange juice, biscuits mid-morning, a bar of chocolate after lunch, cake mid-afternoon, and pudding after dinner. Bet nobody's C here, are they? No. So sugar, more and more is coming out about the fact that it's not just empty calories and it is toxic to us. We're led to believe that the weight gain that people are experiencing is because they're eating too much and exercising too little. However, groundbreaking research now suggests that obesity is primarily related to a high sugar diet. It's not high fat. In order for you to significantly gain weight, you must first become leptin resistant. Leptin resistance blocks the sensation of feeling full, so you can be eating lots, but your body doesn't register the fact you're full, so you keep on eating. Sugar, and fructose in particular, is exceptionally effective at causing this leptin resistance. It feeds cancer cells, so that in itself is a big one to avoid. But I don't know if any of you have seen this presentation on YouTube. Dr. Robert Lustig, he's from the University of California, Los Angeles. It's an amazing presentation. He goes into great detail. I just managed to hold it when he was talking about the structure and how the liver processes the sugar, because it's completely different to other calories. And I highly recommend you to watch that presentation. It's life-changing, or it was for me anyway. The next one we're coming on to is fats. A, I eat a high percentage of saturated fats, although animal fats are limited. I avoid processed vegetable oils and consume high amounts of omega-3s in relation to omega-6s. I never heat any oils unless they are saturated. I only eat unsaturated fats, low-fat products, and adhere to government guidelines about healthy levels. And C, I eat lots of fried food and think that healthy vegetable oil spreads are better for me than butter. Now with fats, we've been hoodwinked, as we have been with lots of things. At the turn of the century in America, the population ate fats and heart disease was unheard of. And then in 1911, vegetable oils were introduced. 10 years later, the first recorded death from heart disease happened. Has anyone here of Dr. Ansel Keys? He was tasked with a study of proving that vegetable oils were better for you than animal fats, saturated fats. And he actually did a study of 22 countries, but what they found out was that the model didn't fit. So what they did is they took the 7 countries which supported the fact that saturated fats are bad for you and caused heart disease, and that's what they published. And that's what we're left with now. This is what our medical profession base their knowledge on, and it's
But intentionally concealed it.
yes, well, yes.
Criminal.
It is, it's absolutely criminal. More of it is coming out now, thank goodness. But if you think of how many thousands and thousands of deaths have happened because of this misguided report. It was published in the late 50s and has caused countless deaths. Now in America, it's around 600 deaths every year. And that's just from heart disease, without all of the other problems that are caused by people not having saturated fats. Saturated fats are good for you. So the results, score the following. If you've got A for anything, give yourself 50 points. If you've got any Bs, 25 points. Cs, no points. And if on the first one you actually said you stuck to government guidelines and you sunbathed before 11 and after 3, and you used toxic sunscreen, minus 25 points. So has anybody got between minus 25 and 40? Because if you have, that's, in some ways it's easy for you because there's some really simple changes you can make that will have a dramatic effect on your health. If you're between 40 and 75, it's a really good start. And between 75 and 100, yay, well done. Come on to my next section, which is top simple life-changing tips. And most of these don't cost very much money at all. They're really easy to do, and it just takes a little bit of adjusting with your thinking. Optimise your vitamin D levels. I think hopefully by now you'll understand how to do that. Drink pure water, alkanised if possible. If nothing else, just buy a jug filter for your water and use it for your tea and your coffee. And we always make sure you throw away any excess water in the kettle because it reduces the oxygen content in the water and also condenses the minerals in there, which you don't necessarily always want. So that's a really simple one. Alkanised water, I've got a water ioniser, and it actually adds an extra molecule of oxygen to the water, and it makes the water more alkanised. So if you're drinking lots of water, say 2 or 3 litres a day, you're obviously giving your body a head start to reducing the acid in your body. They are quite expensive.
Is that the same as structured water?
No, I actually do that as well. Structured water is where you energise it again. There's various different devices you can use for that, but basically it's bringing the water back to life again. Because most of the water we have now, it travels along straight pipes and it loses its life force. So, yeah. This is a really simple one. Even if you don't believe that Wi-Fi is harmful to your health, turn it off at night. Why wouldn't you? Why would you leave your Wi-Fi on at night? You're not going to be using it. I've actually got internet cables which I plug into the wall socket, but sometimes there might be more than one person in the house. I haven't got enough, or for whatever reason, I have got Wi-Fi, but I always make sure if it's being used, that it's always switched off at night. And if needs be, get a timer, so you don't even have to think about it. It's such a simple thing for you to do. Most of us have got mobile phones, and I confess I don't think I could live without mine now. It's so useful. But I very rarely have it actually on my person. If I'm talking, I try and hold it away on speakerphone. You can get little energy dots to try and protect yourself from the fields from them. Another thing you can do is if you are going to keep it in a pocket, for a guy it's obviously a lot more difficult because mostly you don't carry handbags, so it is going to be on your person. You can just put some tin foil next to your skin or on the inside and have the mobile phone, or you can buy special socks to put them in to protect yourself from the fields. Has anyone here gone back to corded phones?
Yes.
So I don't think people appreciate the danger of cordless phones. They actually emit far more of a strength than mobile phones because they're connecting to the base unit at all times. And what people often do is when they question, or when I ask these questions, they've got the main base unit usually beside their bed.
That's where mine was.
Yeah.
It was registered off the scale on this little Geiger counter thing that somebody came on.
Yeah. It's quite frightening, isn't it? And the other thing to bear in mind is when you're on your, it's not on here, but if you're with a laptop and you are using Wi-Fi, say the Wi-Fi box was here and you've got your laptop on your lap, don't have it this way round because you've got the rays, or my technology is not very good, but you've got the fields going through your body. At the very least, just turn this way and then it's not going through your body. It's just being a little bit more aware sometimes of where you're sitting. Genetically modified foods, avoid them and avoid anything artificial. It is much easier now. Most restaurants, they've got disclaimers on them, but if you go to places, if you are going to eat out, make sure you go to somewhere where they avoid genetically modified foods. The easiest way is obviously to buy organic. I do eat meat, but I always make sure it's organic, but I eat far less than I ever used to. I don't eat it all of the time. I buy food in bulk, and my food bill now is virtually no more expensive than it used to be. It's just by being aware and going to the right places to buy things and not wasting anything. Just making sure that if you've got some food left in your fridge, just the next meal, make the food fit what's in your food and in the fridge. Removal of dairy. It was one of the first things somebody said to me after I found out I got cancer. She just got me questioning dairy, why we would want to put it in our bodies. It's got a growth hormone, even if it's organic, IGF-1. And it makes a baby cow grow from a tiny little calf to full grown in 9 months. Do you really want to be putting that in your body, besides all the antibiotics and everything else that they pump into the milk? If you can't give it up, because a lot of people say, well, I don't have much dairy, I just have a tiny drop in my tea and coffee throughout the day. Well, that's probably the worst thing you can do because you're constantly drip feeding the milk into your body. If you're going to have it, and by the way, clotted cream doesn't count as dairy, 2 or 3 times a year I'll have a cream tea and I will really relish and enjoy it. But it's in a concentrated amount once or twice a year. It's what you're doing to your body all of the time. That's what counts.
What about you can't have yogurt as well?
Yogurt's probably the better of any dairy that you can have because you've obviously got the beneficial bacteria in there. But no, I don't have dairy.
And goats. And goats.
Goats is better than cows. Throw away your microwave. I saw some Curlian photography, which made me throw my microwave away. It showed pictures of a piece of broccoli. There was a piece of raw broccoli, a piece of lightly steamed broccoli, boiled, and then some broccoli that had been put in a microwave for, I think it was 5 seconds. I'm sure you can imagine that the raw broccoli had a beautiful aura around it, beautiful energy field, and it gradually went down. But as soon as you got to the microwave one, nothing. No energy left in the food at all. And you don't need one. I brought up my children, I suppose, for the last 5 or 6 years without a microwave. You just need to be a tiny bit more organised. But more often than not, you can defrost something quite quickly if you put it on the radiator. If you freeze it in a... so I don't buy any ready meals, but I do bulk buy or bulk make food so that if I am in a hurry, I've got a meal there and I can just put it on the radiator and half an hour later, or in a pan with a little bit of water and stir it around. It doesn't take long. You don't need a microwave. Sugar. It's the one thing. I'm seeing a lady at the moment and she's in a pretty sorry state and she can't give up sugar. She just says, I can't give it up. She won't believe me that your taste buds will adapt. They do.
When you say sugar, are you talking about just that processed sugar, or do you think of things like agave nectar or all that?
I don't like agave nectar because it is so highly processed. The only one that I like at the moment, and if you ask me tomorrow I might change my mind, is stevia, because it's least processed and it's also low on the glycemic level. But a lot of the xylitol I used to think was a good sweetener. It's not. It's very highly processed. Some of it now is genetically modified as well because it's coming from corn.
But do they all cause this leptin resistance?
Leptin resistance is mainly from fructose, which is the fruit. Nature's very clever because it will give you the poison and the antidote in one place. So if you have an apple's great. But if you split it and you take the juice out, the juice is basically a poison to you. But by having the fibre with it, that's what your body's meant to use. So if you're going to do any juicing, try not to juice fruit and make sure you do lots of vegetables. Eliminate all processed food. And by processed food, it's anything really, if it's got a list of ingredients on, it's probably going to be processed. This was the one I found the hardest, but in actual fact, looking back, it's probably the easiest thing any of you can do, is switch your personal care products, that's things like deodorants, makeup, and cleaning products, to non-toxic ones. Some of them out there, they actually work better than the toxic ones. There's a product by Earth Friendly called Stain and Odour Remover, and it's the most amazing multi-surface product you can use for the stains on your carpet, on your clothes. It's really cheap, it doesn't stick in your hands, it's just amazing. So don't just assume that if it's Earth Friendly or non-toxic, it's not going to work, because some of them work far, far better, and they're not necessarily more expensive. And walk barefoot on the earth daily. Okay, in the winter it's not particularly pleasant, but it's a free thing to do. And as Barbara was saying earlier on, it helps with the electrons. So any of those little tips that don't cost anything, I'm a great fan of. I've got lots more, but I didn't want to bombard you with a whole heap of things. I think if you can just do some of the, even if it's 1 or 2 things on that list that you're not doing now, it will have a massive effect on your health. I go to a farmer called George Mudge. George Mudge down in Tavistock, yeah. His wife had breast cancer and she went down the conventional route. She had radiotherapy and I think it was 5 or so years later, she was given the all clear from breast cancer. She got lung cancer as a direct result of having the radiotherapy. He felt so passionately about it and wanted to help people to have an alternative way of finding out information. He bought a thermogram machine and he gets a nurse in to take the photographs, and then the results get sent off to America. I can't remember the exact price, but it's about £100. The first time you go, you get 2 thermograms. One is a baseline, which is the first one you saw, and then you go back 3 months later so you can see if there's any changes, and they can make sure that everything looks as it should do in that time scale. And then I go once a year. There is somewhere else in Exeter now, I don't know the name of it, but it's the details I think are in the Arcturus Clinic. There's 2 types of rays, UVA and UVB. UVB is the vitamin D forming rays, and they're only available when the sun's directly above you. And there are lots of calculations as you can do, but as a rule of thumb, if your shadow is shorter than you, you're probably making D3. So before 11 and after 3, that's not going to happen. If you're sunbathing before then, and before 11 and after 3, you're only getting the UVA rays, and that's the cancer-forming rays. So you're getting the cancer-forming rays with none of the benefit of the D rays.
Okay. So you're actually better off being out in the sun, when it's hotter.
Absolutely, but you mustn't burn.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I've noticed is since I've changed my diet and I'm taking krill oil as well, I don't burn. Your body, the antioxidants and your whole body's working as it should do, and I just don't burn. But obviously burning will cause skin cancer, and it's to be avoided at all costs. But ironically enough, the people who tend to get skin cancer are the ones who've got chronically low vitamin D levels. You might think your levels are absolutely fine. My brother thought his were fine. He got them tested. His were 9. Bearing in mind anything below 125 is deficient. His were 9. My daughter got hers tested. I think hers were 15. You do need to look at it. It's the most important thing, I believe, that anybody can do. If you don't want to do anything else, look at vitamin D. Do your own research. You are supposed to take K2 with it, but if you're eating a nutritionally balanced food, and because I do my own fermented vegetables, they've got K2 in it. So whenever I've had my levels tested, they've been fine. Sometimes they do drop a little bit low, and sometimes they go a bit high. And for me, I can find no explanation for it. It's not like the case my levels fall dramatically in the winter, even though I'm taking the same supplements. My body doesn't work like that. That's why I always have my levels tested twice a year, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, K2 if you're digestive, or you're not assimilating food properly, or you're not eating as well as you should do. That's what Dr. Marcola recommends.
Julie Harrison, thank you very much.
Thank you.